Sim, one more time for Simeon Goodson, everybody! Yeah! Oh, we got them together. Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
This is the earliest I've been awake in months. It's like
damn, your life is in shambles. God damn.
Right.
You just too good to the gym all the time.
I go to the gym, I just go...
At 4 p.m.?
Right, I just go mad late. Like, it's early for me, but it's
okay.
late for, like, the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Like, I'm getting out the gym and, like, kids are getting out of school. I'm about to have some breakfast.
That is weird. You're a rare breed. You're a native New Yorker. There's not a lot of you guys left.
Well, there's more now after COVID, because a lot of people escaped, but people from New York ain't have nowhere to go.
Right.
You have to stay. All right.
And endure. Where are you born?
I was born in Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Which neighborhood?
Fort Greene.
Fort Greene. Biggie.
Yeah.
Nice.
Right.
You black and Asian, right?
I am. But like only genetically.
What the fuck does that mean?
Like I don't really do like no Asian stuff.
Who's Asian?
My mom. Well, my grandfather. All right. So here's the story. My grandfather was in the Chinese army in World War II. His ship landed in South Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina, and then he met my grandmother there, who was half Chinese. So my grandmother her father was Chinese and her mother was black. So my grandfather met my grandmother. It was World War II, so it was like a 30-year age difference, like some real dirtbag shit.
That was love.
Right, it was like his second wife, and she's like,
courted me.
Right. So it was like, I like your daughter type of shit. Like when you go to like someone's pops, and you're like, hey, I see you got a daughter now. What you doing with that? Dad is like, I don't know, make me an offer. What you got? So, right, like that's how it used to be.
Yeah.
But then, so then he jumped ship. Like he never went back to China. Mm-hmm. He just like stayed in America to be with my grandmother, and then I guess they weren't really supposed to be together, so they moved to New York. So we're the only part of my family.
Yeah.
Like that was where the split happened. That's where like the New York people come from.
Okay.
From them coming to New York. So the rest of the family is in like South Carolina and stuff. So then they had 4 kids, my mom, my aunt, and my 2 uncles, and then that's it. Now we here.
And you have zero like cultural Chinese things.
We do Chinese New Year.
Okay.
Like we go, we eat Chinese like food, like cuisine. No, like I mean it is what it is.
Like everybody eats Chinese food.
Right, but it's, right.
What are you, Jews on Christmas? You gotta eat Chinese food.
Right. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's not really. I don't really do anything distinctively Chinese. You know what I mean? Like I'm like
yeah.
No, I like lo mein as well. Yeah. I think sometimes like my family will get like a little more experimental with it though. Like we'll be accustomed to things.
Right.
Like we'll eat like shark fin soup and shit like that. Shit that
that sounds
right. Where people will be like, oh, I'm not gonna try that. You know what I mean? Like
I experiment sometimes with food. I tried to cook shark. It's pretty gross. It wasn't fun. Or maybe I didn't cook it properly.
Right. I have no idea how to prepare a shark.
But from your memory, shark fin soup.
Shark fin soup is delicious, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like frowned upon now with the oceans and everything.
Yeah, Asians are, I would say, food-wise, the most adventurous people. They just eat a lot of weird shit.
Well, I think it's the opposite. I think they're just not adventurous. They're just like, yo, you can eat that, so eat it. You know what I mean? Like I feel like the French are adventurous because they were like, all right, let's stuff a fucking duck liver with brandy and see what happens. You know what I mean? Like that's adventurous. Chinese people are like, what the fuck is that? I didn't die. Let's keep eating it. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? They're like, fuck it. What's that? An animal? Let me try it. Let's see how it tastes. And the nigga dies. You're like, all right, don't eat that one. Eat these though. These is good. Yeah. But they got mad people. You know what I mean? These motherfuckers is expendable at one point. I said at one point. Come on. They implemented the one-child rule. There was a reason they had to do shit like that. It was mad amounts of them.
Listen, he lives in China. He's an authority on this. I'm gonna go with him. So
no, this is regular ass racism. This has no authoritative undertone. This is just me.
I do like weird food. I had frog legs in a restaurant in San Francisco's Chinatown, and to this day, it's the best thing I ever ate.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a clay pot restaurant. It was dope.
Right. That's good.
What's the weirdest thing you ever had, food-wise?
In China?
No, well, I guess in China, yeah. Sure.
All right. Well, they used to have these things where it's just like a not midnight, but like after the bars go out, like you'll walk down the street in the day and it'll just be like a big empty street. But then like nighttime comes and everybody will set up like food trucks and shit.
Oh, it's like a nighttime flea market.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like a night market, but it's mostly food, you know what I mean? So it'll just be different people selling different, they were pretty much selling the same shit, but it's like different twists on it.
Yeah.
And shit like that. So what they used to do is just have like a big ass thing of ice, and then they would have a grill, and then on the ice they would just have like meats and fish and whatever the fuck they were serving, mostly skewered, and you would just like pick the shit up that you wanted, put it on the tray, and they would cook it for you. So we would go there like every night after the bar, like, you know, for a week straight. Yeah. We was just getting regular shit like lamb chops and broccoli skewers and shit like that. But we kept going, so you know, he liked us. So we all sitting there eating, and he comes up with these fucking like locusts. They weren't locusts because they didn't have wings, but it was like some kind of larva. It was like a segmented worm. Like, remember the Lion King? When he picks up the rock and he's like, grubs. Like, it looked like that shit. But it was like grilled and seasoned and shit, like on a skewer. So he comes out with them and he's like, oh, you gotta try. He's like, you like that? We eating a lamb and shit, you know, like a lamb chop. He's like, you like that? You gonna love this. I was like, are you sure? Because this is really good. I really like this. He was like, oh, I'm telling you, bro, if you like a lamb chop, you gonna love a grub. And I was like, all right. Fuck it, let's try grub. And I ate that shit, and it was just like the most disgusting thing I've ever, like, it's like difficult to describe how bad it was, because it's like texturally bad, flavor was bad, like it was just bad, like everything about food
like zero
that you like,
quality.
Right, there was nothing about it where you're like, at least it was, you know what I mean? Like, there was nothing good about it. It was like, we were like spitting it up, like that's how bad, and you know, that's mad rude for somebody. We're all adults, so you know, if somebody gives you something that doesn't taste that good, you choke it down, right? Yeah. You choke it down, you're like, it's not really my thing, no thanks, I don't want it anymore. But these shits, we were like, like wiping our tongue like third graders, like, it was so fucking that, it was disgusting. Like, I'll never forget how disgusting it was, and I'll never be able to describe it. Like, it was so, it was like mushy, and crunchy, and bland, and gross though, like, and, I don't know, it was just like every bad thing. Like, you could take every bad food quality.
Did he tell you what it was?
I say he spoke Chinese, I couldn't communicate. We was going on real basic, you know, grunts and gestures, shit like that. I was a caveman over there. I was just like, me thirsty. They were like, okay.
What led you to China? How you spent most of the pandemic in China, right?
Yeah. I was there. Well, I was there with my ex. She was teaching. She was teaching abroad. So she started teaching abroad in 2015. That's when we went to Abu Dhabi. Then 2000. What happened? Oh, okay. This is what happened. Trump won. So we was in Abu Dhabi. Right. We was in Abu Dhabi in 2015, 2016. That was the election, and we was watching that shit from over there. Like, the fuck is going on, right? You know what I mean? Because at first it was like, haha, Trump's running again. What a wacko. What a goofball. And then he's like still running. You know what I mean? You're like, what? Why is he still here? Like, and then he won. So he was like, all right, maybe we should stay abroad. You know what I mean? He was like, maybe we should just travel a little more. Because the original plan was come back after Abu Dhabi. But then
that was your version of white people I'm moving to Canada.
Right, but we was already gone, so we were just like, might as well stay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then we was kind of right. That was kind of like the right decision to make, apparently. So
yeah.
But then, so 2018 we moved to China, and then we were there until 2021. So last July, not this past summer, the summer prior.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's when it came
So
out.
I remember when you were about to move, because I remember we had a conversation about it. Because you were sort of thinking, like, if it's the right thing to do, because you're, like, uprooting your whole life and going to a whole new country.
Right. Well, when I left, I had, like, a city job. So I had, like, pension and benefits and shit.
What was your job?
I was just like an office worker for the city, but it was a government job. You know what I mean? So it was just
solid.
like it was like solid. It was like you can't get fired from it, but that shit was like killing me, like from the inside. It was just like gray walls and cubicles. It was just like it was terrible for my mental.
Comedy.
I was doing comedy, but I wasn't. I was like also like drinking like all day, every day.
Yeah,
like waking up drinking.
I remember.
And then that was like right. And then I was doing mad drugs. Like before I left for the Middle East, like I was just like high all the time. I was drunk, like I was just partying, and then I went to the Middle East and like it was like nah, you can't really party like that here. So
I've heard it's pretty like not like extreme in terms of laws for drugs. Like you can get like
drugs. The thing about drugs over there is not really part of the culture. Like you come to New York and motherfuckers is offering you coke. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you go to like the right bar and somebody's gonna offer you some shit. You gotta be like, no, I'm good, stranger. I don't want your fucking weird drugs. But like over there, that's not the culture. So like you're not gonna find a seedy bar. Like if people are doing drugs, they're doing it like hidden away.
Yeah.
In a fucking. It's like an actual drug den. You know what I mean? Like. Where like you're really shunned from society.
But is it true that if you get caught with weed, you could go to jail for it?
You go to jail. Yeah, you go to jail for everything, for all the drugs. Everything was illegal except alcohol. You could drink, but even the alcohol, you couldn't like. There was no like, there was no like bars on the street. So there would be a hotel with a bar in it, and then there was a liquor store that was closed at like 8 p.m. So you had to like plan out your drinking. You know what I mean? Which makes you want to drink less. Like honestly, like it doesn't. You don't want to go in the liquor store and like carry a case out every week. You know what I mean? But if you go to the liquor store and just like buy a bottle every day, it doesn't add up in your mind. But when you're at the plan and you're like, oh, tonight I'll drink 8 beers, and then you bang them shits out in 30 minutes, you're like, oh, I might have a problem. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? But if you can just keep going back one at a time, you're like, I don't have a problem. I've only been up 3 days straight. I'm good. But yeah, so it's like that's kind of, it's just culturally, people aren't walking around fucked up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like drunk. There's not a bar scene like that. So it's very contained where you were partying.
So in some weird way, moving there might have been good for you.
I think it was great for me. I love the Middle East. I was there, and then it was also like I was kind of getting like, well, I started doing comedy in New York.
Right.
So when you start doing comedy in New York, you don't really realize the abundance that you're provided with. You know what I mean? Because you got open mics, you got bringer shows, even the shows you hate to do, the bringers, the barkers, and there's opportunities to go up and do comedy in New York. So you I don't know, just starting here, you just kind of feel like you're like, well, I'm owed some of this. You know what I mean? You don't see the work that went into building the scene because the scene was already there.
Yes.
So when I moved to the Middle East, there was a very light scene. It was maybe like 5 comics, literally doing, like it would be them 5 on every show. You know what I mean? Like, so anytime there was a comedy show, you knew exactly who was on it. So when I got out there, it wasn't like the same infrastructure. You know what I mean? First of all, it wasn't really room to just add a 6th dude to the show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like I kind of had to like
find my own guy in town.
Well, when I was new, it was fun to them because they're like, oh, he's from New York, he's funny, he's this, he's that. But I was like, you know, I'm used to like getting drunk, getting drink tickets, you know, taking a shot, hitting the next spot, hitting the next spot, hitting the next spot. And over there, it's like you got one show.
So over there,
one show a week, maybe. You know what I mean?
You're doing comedy in English, and people are very receptive.
Well, everybody spoke English in the bar. It was very. They wanted, especially like British expats. Yeah. You know what I mean? They're very accommodating to them because there's a big financial aspect of it in London, and then there's all oil monies moving around, engineering. You know. So they would bring like Australian and Germans. There would be like German engineers living there just to build buildings and skyscrapers and shit like that.
Right.
So it was very accommodating to English speaking people. Okay. But it was not accommodating to performers per se because we needed licenses to perform. So what we were supposed to do was submit all your documents, your passport.
You have to get a sort of like a driver's license in a way.
Well, it's every show. So every show they had to issue
every single show
they had to issue you. They were supposed to.
Jesus
so
Christ.
Like, well, if you're doing a show in like a hotel, then they're gonna do it. But if you're doing like some small, you know.
Okay. What would happen if you did it without a license?
The venue would get fined, probably to the point that the venue would have to shut down. Like they would be fined harshly for just violating. So we put in our documents, and we were supposed to also submit a script of what we were going to say on stage. So, and then we would do that, and then what they would do is they would send somebody from the government to like sit and watch the show.
Make sure that everything follows the script.
That it's supposed to, but they would let you, deviate. But the main thing they were watching is they wanted to make sure you weren't up there talking shit about Islam, and they wanted to make sure you weren't talking shit about the government.
Fuck.
So the funny thing would be that, like, us as foreigners, we would be there like, oh shit, don't say anything. You know what I mean? Like, we were playing a super.
Because you could get killed and your family would never know about it.
Right.
They were just like, all right, Simeon disappeared.
Right. He just never came home. Right. But the people who were from there, the Emiratis, they would go on stage and they'd be like, doesn't Allah suck? It's just wild, insane shit. And you're just like, yo, shut the, like, we're not even Muslim. We're like, yo, shut the fuck up. What are you doing? And they're like, you know who I hate? The whole government. You're like, bro, what are you doing? So that was something we had to deal with sometimes. It was always them. It was always somebody from the country just on stage like, fuck the president, right? And he's just like, no, not right.
Did that make you in some weird way appreciate sort of the freedom that you have in America to just talk about whatever you want on stage with no one having to like...
I kind of appreciated just having to adapt to that. Because there's a lot of like stuff where people just like say shit to say shit. You know what I mean? Like with no intention of it being funny.
Interesting. So you're saying you appreciated a little bit of censorship.
Right, yeah, I kind of did. Just because like, it was fun to work with. Like I had to focus more on being like creative. Plus, I was doing comedy. Like it really put into perspective what I was doing. Like when I was in New York, comedy just felt like a part of my personality. Like I'm a dude who does comedy. But out there, since everything, there was paperwork involved. You know what I mean? You had to schedule this shit. It's not like if I miss this show, I got another one later that night or another one the next day. If I miss this show, that's it for the week. You know what I mean? Like I don't have another show. So it was like, it made me realize that this is like an active job. You know what I mean? It felt more like, I was treating it more like, just something that happens to me. Like, I'm so great, I get booked. You know what I mean? I'm serious. Like, I'm so good, I'm so funny, all I have to do is wait for that phone call. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then the phone calls were coming. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like I was wrong, but it was just like over there, like, you gotta work for that shit. So when you work for it, you're like, all right. You move with a little more intent. I'll put it like
That's
that.
That's fair. Yeah.
So it was like, and then coming back, it's like there's no rules here, but because
there are some rules.
Well, that's the
can't say there's no rules.
I think comedy-wise, it's pretty lawless. Like you can get shunned by the comedy community, but I'm not worried about the cops rolling up, and being like, "What the fuck did you just say? Come on," you know what I mean? So that in that context, like, you can not be asked to perform anymore, but I'm not worried about this guy being an undercover cop. You know what I mean? Like, yo, I heard what the fuck you said in there, type shit. You know what I mean? So in that respect, I would say it's lawless. Yeah. But because it's lawless, that was going to be my other point. It's kind of community moderated now. You know what I mean? Because you can't say shit like you were alluding to. You can't just say anything you want unless you can make it funny. Yes. That's kind of the rule. Like if you can get away with it, then you can get away with it. That's the rule.
Yeah, but then funny is subjective. That's the problem with that. But it might be funny to us, and then somebody's like, "Well, that wasn't fucking funny."
Well, that's why you work out in front of crowds.
Yo, keep my wife's name out your mouth.
This guy wanted to let us know.
Right? You see, community moderation.
I have a television. I watched it all.
I was like, damn, did we make a bold joke? What the fuck did we say? I thought I was talking about my time in Abu Dhabi. I didn't mean to insult the alopecia crowd.
Yeah, it's a weird thing.
But that's like community moderation.
I don't know if that was community moderation.
It was because they shut down Will Smith. They was like, that's too far, bro. They were like, that's
Oh, I thought you meant Will Smith doing that was community
it's all entertainment at this point. But things like that happen on like regular stage where somebody like get up on the stage You know what I mean? Take a swing, and sometimes you'll be like, yo, that dude needed to get punched. Right? But most of the time, you're like, nah, bro, come on, like, it was a joke. But sometimes, every now and then, you see a comic, and you're like, yeah, that dude.
That happens.
You kind of had that one coming for a couple months now. I'm surprised he lasted this long.
That happens a lot in the hood. I remember one time I was doing, you remember Mocha's Lounge?
Yes.
Mondays in Harlem, one of the craziest fucking place you could do comedy. And it was one of those things you gotta do as a black comedian to say you did it. Right. So you're like,
That's
I
exactly
have this under my belt.
And then we had Footprints in Brooklyn, which was the same thing.
So I went to Mocha one time, and I was waiting to go on, and there was a comic on stage before me, and I'll tell you who he was off stage. And she's kind of a problem sometimes, and she was on stage, and all I heard was, "You fucking fat bitch," and then somebody threw a glass at her from the audience and just threw it.
Right.
And I sat there, I was like, I don't need to do this. This doesn't have to be part of my comedy journey, so I'm just gonna go home.
So you left?
Yeah, I left. I didn't do myself. I'm like, I don't need to be a part of this. This is fucking crazy.
Fucking soft, nigga. Nah, you gotta do, you don't do those rooms, you do those rooms to do well once. You gotta do well once.
I did it once. That was my second time. So I was like, I already had the first time. Yeah.
Alright, so yeah, you didn't need to go back. But yeah, you're supposed to go to those rooms and just like fight for it until you like get a laugh and then you're like, I'm fucking done. I'm done with that.
Yeah.
It's like
comedy doesn't have to be a fight with the audience.
But it's fun when you know how to deal with that. Not fun. It's like training. You know what I mean? It's like how you gotta learn when you have a job. Like you guys do tech stuff, right? You do IT stuff, and every year you gotta like refresh your skills. You gotta learn new skills because the climate is changing, and you can't adjust. You gotta adjust your algorithm, shit like that. So
yeah, but I don't think they'll ever need somebody to throw a glass at them. They need a
but look, the reason they have so much security at Facebook now is because of the old computer dudes who were kind of throwing glasses. They was hacking in this shit. They was stealing info. That's the digital version of throwing glasses and heckling an engineer, right? Like, yo, fuck your code, nigga. I'm in there, son. This your password, right? Ha ha. Right, that's what hackers are. They're just digital hecklers. Like, whoa, nigga. Your code is trash, son. You're like, damn, son, they got you, huh? Oh, they broke right in your shit, huh? Maybe you should get a little nice like me.
This is part of your Brooklyn upbringing, you know. You just
that's how I interpret everything. Yes, through crime. That's how I understand things. I'm like, explain it to me in terms of.
It's okay to leave the streets behind, Sim. It's okay.
You gotta see, they only say that to niggas from the hood. Like if I was from like a farm in Welsh, people wouldn't be like, you gotta leave that farm behind, bro.
Well, there's hoods in England where they tell people to leave it behind too. You know, it's different.
I mean,
it's the same shit.
I don't think we gotta leave the. You know why? Because every time we leave the hood behind, mad white people move in. You're like, what the fuck? You told me to leave.
No, not like literally. I mean the behaviors that lead to terrible shit.
The rent went up 3 times. Trying to trick me into leaving the hood. Nah, son, staying. I'm staying. I see what y'all been doing to the hood, and I'm staying.
I remember. That must have been 2015 or 2016 where you came up to me and you were like, hey, what size is your shoe? What size is your foot? And I was like, 12. And you said, all right, I got a pair of Jordans.
Yeah.
Do you want them?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'll take him. Do I have to do anything for it? Or is it just free? And it's like, all right. It's like, yeah, no, it's free. It's fine. And then you give me a pair of Jordans. And then later I found out it's because you had too many and your wife forced you to give one away.
Well, she didn't force me. Well, she forced you.
She didn't force me,
but she was like nagging about the shoes. So I wouldn't say I was forced. I was saying I was compromising with her. Back and forth. It was give and take.
Yeah, I took that pair of Jordans. I went home to Haiti and my cousin liked it, so I was like, all right, I give it to my cousin. So
right,
a pair of Jordans is in Haiti now.
Right, that's beautiful.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like
that's how I knew one day you would get
all the way from Taiwan.
Yeah.
To Brooklyn. Now they in Haiti.
And that's how I knew one day you would get a divorce.
Because
I'm like, your wife doesn't let you have fun and enjoy the things you like. What the fuck is this? What is this fucking Maury show? Jesus Christ.
interestingly,
but now let's get into this.
Well,
what led to you getting a divorce?
I think interestingly, we spent because all right, the last year we were in Abu Dhabi, I crashed a car into a pole because I was driving drunk, and they took me to jail.
You're just gonna say that very casually,
right.
you just drive drunk sometimes.
Right. Well, what happened was we were at a premiere for a show. This place, I think it was called like Pizza Palace or some shit like that, which to us sounds cheesy and little kiddish, but to them it was like Western, so it was fancy. It was like, you know what I mean? So this is like this big, huge pizza restaurant. It's beautiful. It's like their opening night. They're doing a comedy show. Open bar. We're fucking bucking the fuck out. This dude comes up. He's like, yo, do you want to try this honey? I was like, why would I eat honey in the middle of a party? He was like, no, trust me, bro. You want to try this honey. So I was like, oh, yeah, let me get some of that honey. Fuck yeah. So he's fucking, so it's just like this like little tube of honey, and we're just fucking taking it like right to the face. It's pre-COVID, so we don't care. We're just fucking sucking on the same tube as each other, and I'm fucking wasted. Like, I'm done. And I did the show, I'm like 30 drinks in, couple honeys in, and I'm feeling good. So I'm flirting, talking shit to girls, all types of shit. So I get in the car, and I'm literally driving the car, just on the phone texting. Just like not even, like I don't even know, like yeah, I wasn't even like looking up. Like I was just like, yeah. So next thing I know, the airbags is out. I was like, oh, all right. This ain't good. And then the cops show up. I go to jail for the weekend. My friend has to bail me out. Because how it works over there is you go to jail. When you get convicted, they're like, this is your fine to get out of jail, X amount. And every day you stay in jail is $100 off that amount. So you got like a $50,000 fine. It's $100 every day. And once you finish that amount of days, you could go. Or you could come pay the money. So I'm in fucking jail, just call, like I don't have my phone, so it's like I gotta remember numbers and shit. I'm just like, I don't fucking know. So I get in contact with my wife, who gets in contact with the dude I was doing comedy with, how it worked out there is they had to pay him and he had to pay me. Like people didn't just pay me. Right. So I was like, oh, all the money, all the money they're paying you, I need it. He was like, for what? I was like, to get the fuck out of jail. He's like, oh, okay. So he comes and then I get out of jail. So from that point, I was kind of like, this is like when we're leaving. This is like a couple months before we leave Abu Dhabi. So at this point, I'm like, damn, I'm kind of, I'm kind of taking it too far. Right, I'm kind of taking this too far now. Like this is getting scary. Yeah. So when we got to China, I was kind of like, I'm not really going to focus on comedy. Like I'm going to focus on the family. You know what I mean? I'm going to let her work.
I'll stay father.
Right. I'm going to try and just be like a good dude and not really, being a comic and out drinking and all that shit anymore. And then I was doing that for like years and years. Just house husband, cooking dinner and shit, cleaning up, shit like that, watching the kids, buying toys, taking them on, play areas, shit like that. And that was like my life for like mad years. And then COVID hit. So now everything is scary. We don't know what the fuck is going on. We all stuck in the house together. Like there's 5 of us. You know what I mean? In the house all day, every day. Just same 5 people. 3 of them is below 10. So you already know what it is. Like we there and we get through COVID, but it was just I just felt like after COVID, I don't know, I think we was just kinda like
we did it. We don't have to be together.
Right. I think after COVID we was just both kinda like, that's enough. Because we had done so much, we had like traveled and we had done stuff. Honestly, like if we were in the States and like maybe I could have spent the night at my mom's house for the weekend, or she could have went out with her girlfriends. Like but we might still be together. But that wasn't the case.
Yeah,
way over
that's
there.
A lot. That's a
so
lot.
It was just like, you know what I mean? There's no real support system, none of that shit. So we just kind of stopped fucking with each other. And then because COVID hit, the local comedy scenes in China couldn't fly comedians in anymore.
Yeah.
So it was like just me. It was just like it was for real, like just me, and like I was the closest thing they had to a headliner. So it was just like, and they had all this infrastructure already set up for people to come out and watch shows, but they had nothing for them to watch because they couldn't fly nobody in. So I just started hitting up all these cities where they had the infrastructure in place and then doing it. And then, so that I had actually stopped doing comedy for like a good 2 years between Abu Dhabi and China. Okay. Then my last year in China, my last year and a half, last 2 years in China, I was just doing, because I was, I didn't want to be in the house with her because we was broken up. And then, I was just hitting the road.
That's a horrible feeling, to be in a house with somebody that you've broken up with.
Right, in another country.
Oh, fuck. Right. Yeah, that's
so
a whole new dimension.
Right, it wasn't even like we could.
Yeah. Do you guys have a decent relationship now? Because I know she's in Texas.
She's actually in Georgia now, so she went to Georgia.
Okay.
So, she went to Texas.
The Atlanta people are so thirsty for representation. They were like, oh, yeah, she's in Georgia.
Right. The problem with Georgia, the thing is, I hate Texas because she moved there. You know what I mean? And then she moved to Georgia, and I was like, you got me, bitch. Because you can't hate Atlanta. Like, as a black dude, you can't just be like, I hate Atlanta. Like, that doesn't work. You know what I mean? So it's like, you tricked me, bitch. But I still hate Texas. Fuck Texas. But yeah.
How old are your kids?
12, 10, 5.
All right.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite?
I got a son.
Why are you guys so squirmish about very reasonable adult questions?
It is a reasonable question.
Like, your parents have their favorites, and I'm sorry to say it's probably not you if you're laughing.
Well, no, it is. No, that's not how it. That's not how it works. Your favorite child depends on the situation. Like, I was gonna say, I have a son who's a boy. Like, it's my only son, so like, he's kind of like the default favorite. Mm-hmm. But when the kids are actually around, like, yo, you gotta get the fuck out of my face. Because he's also the youngest. So I'm like, you fucking annoying, bro. Right? And then I have my oldest, right? So the oldest kid is always like the guilt kid. Like, you just feel, like, you fucked that kid up. You know what I mean? Because it was at first, you didn't really know what you was doing. You was kind of winging it. People was in your ear telling you to do shit.
That was the child.
Right. You got that. So that's like your guilt baby. So she asked for shit, and I'm like, you got it. Like, whatever you want. Like, I don't even question her. She's like, I need $70. I'm like, here you go, baby. That's $70. I don't care. Right. Like, whatever she wants, that's it. Just because you just like, yo, we did try and put you in like a leather harness once, didn't we? You don't even remember that. God damn. I'm so sorry, baby. We took it to like a holistic doctor who was shaking it by the legs and shit. And you're like, God. We shouldn't have did that to you, baby. I'm so sorry. And then you got the middle child who's the middle child. So you know, like, everybody knows about middle child syndrome. So you're like, I'm not going to ignore my middle child. Yeah. And then you ignore your middle child. Oh shit, I forgot you was there. Where you was at? You're walking around with 2 kids like, what the fuck is missing right there? I know I forgot something. She's still in the Ferris wheel. Like, what the fuck? What am I forgetting?
So the boy is the youngest.
The boy is the youngest, yeah.
Did your kids pick up any of the languages in all those countries?
They were good. They were speaking. In China, we would talk through the kids, yeah.
Oh yeah,
because they took Chinese in school, so they had like formal lessons. Plus, they were young; their brains.
Yeah, when you're young, you can learn 7 languages.
I'm 40. I was like,
How much Mandarin/Chinese do you have right now?
Me personally?
Yeah,
I could do ni hao.
I can do that. I never lived in China.
You asked me what I got. I'm letting you know what I got. I got 谢谢.
Thank you.
对不起. That's sorry. Sorry is for when you a big black dude bumping into shit. In China, you gotta learn that shit. You're like, do it. So that's something, you know. So I used to know how to order a beer, but the problem is I live in a Spanish neighborhood now, so every time I try and think of it, I'm getting Spanish. Because I can't process.
So as a creepy guy trying to hate on women in the club, what do you say in Chinese to be like?
In China, well, it was different in China, because in China I was like, I was a celebrity.
Oh.
I was like a giant black, I could be anybody.
So you could just look at a girl and she's
right. I was Jay-Z, I was Kanye West, I was Biggie Smalls, I was LeBron James.
Not Biggie Smalls.
Everybody, son. I was everybody. I was Steph Curry. I was every black nigga ever.
You were Oprah, Whoopi Goldberg,
right. I was you. I was anything I wanted to be in China. Just living the life.
Nice.
Nah, but I was like, I was like performing, And for the most part, I was in other cities. So it was like super exotic. It was like not only am I a black dude in China, I'm like visiting this city from another city that I live in. You know what I mean? So it's just like this whole weird thing. So it didn't take much conversation. I was very exotic.
Right. Okay.
Right. And here in America, I'm not exotic no more. Regular ass black dude.
Yeah, but you're so Brooklyn, it feels somewhat exotic.
Right, that's why I hang out in Manhattan.
You like loud as shit. You're like, who is this loud son of a bitch at the bar? It's a Brooklyn.
It's me, baby.
Yeah.
It's me, Biggie.
So hold on. Let's backtrack a little bit. How many countries? So China.
Have I lived in?
Yeah.
Just the two. I've only lived in China and
the UAE.
Yeah.
UAE, okay. And because generally speaking, as an immigrant, I feel like Americans are just very like American centric.
Right.
They're not taught about the rest of the world. They don't know shit about anything else. So I think when an American goes and lives in a place, it makes them more rounded as a human being. And I think
agree.
I've seen some of that in you.
Okay.
Yeah, I have. Have you seen it in yourself? Like, how did you see how any of that manifested?
Didn't I just talk about that, motherfucker? What the fuck?
No, but I want to know.
Didn't I just say that shit? Shit changed me, nigga. No, I definitely. You know what's interesting is like you kind of come back. I think the most interesting part is the repatriation process, like coming back to America, because you kind of like it's kind of like reverse immigrant vibes. You know what I mean? Like you do come back like, yo, y'all all kind of lazy Americans. Y'all not really trying that hard as some of this stuff.
You're like, these children could be making iPhones while they're in school.
Right.
What's going on?
They not iPhones, but my kids get considerably less homework now. Like considerably less. And I'm like, come on, y'all. But they do have the fortunate opportunity to do active shooter drills, so that's fun. So I guess that's a good trade-off. They have less homework and they might die. So welcome back to the U.S.
Like that one, huh? You want a good school shooting joke now?
I mean, it was kind of jarring because we saw them overseas, like on TV. Like, yo, that's kind of wild that they doing that shit. But then, like, your kids are doing it. You're like, whoa, we gotta do something about these guns.
Did you ever like watch local news in China? Just like, what was the crime?
We had LA news.
You had LA news?
However they were stealing news, like it came from LA. Because we had this box. It was a little box, you just plugged it in to the HDMI and it worked on the Wi-Fi, and it was just everything. It was for real everything. Like it was like Disney, and I was watching all the MCU shit. Dragon Ball came out. I watched that. I was watching wrestling. I was watching all that shit, like a live TV. So we was watching like we saw like the riots, January 6th. We saw that on TV. We was like, what the fuck is that? We were like, what show is this? This is a weird show.
Yeah,
that's the news.
That was very weird for me as a Haitian, because we have a January 6th like every 6 months.
Right.
So to see one in America, it was like, oh, you guys aren't supposed to copy us. We're supposed to copy you. What the fuck is going on? It was very weird. I was like, oh, maybe America is kind of over. That's how I thought about it.
January 6th is so weird because they were targeting the people that are denying it happened. Like, that's such a... Like, if that came from me... And then the government was like, nah, they never did that shit. I'd be like, all right, I see what you're doing. But they were like trying to kill people who were in that building. And then the people who were in that building are like, nah, nothing happened. You're like, what? Like, they had a gun in your face, bro. Like, I wish I loved something as much as people love Trump. I wish I had that passion for anything. I was just like, I don't care what you say, I'm fucking with it. You know what I mean? It used to be cocaine, but I don't really do that.
You know, the closest thing I've seen to the way people love Trump is, I think, the way women love Beyonce. It's very similar.
I don't know. I've never seen a woman scale a wall for Beyonce.
Oh, you have not been to a Beyonce concert.
This is true.
Listen,
this is also true.
Bitches lose their minds for Beyonce. It's pretty insane. So
that's interesting.
I think the cult of personality goes the same across the board. When you have somebody that feels like your savior,
I think it's interesting only because Beyonce's not calling them into action. Like
Right,
Trump,
she's not.
Trump
She's not.
tests the waters.
She's
and
not
it's very
dangerous.
interesting. Trump
She's
is
not
like
dangerous the way Trump
right.
is. Yeah.
Maybe that's what we need. We need Beyonce to like rise up and battle the red hats. It's just like a bunch of big booty women in fishnets like running like charge! A bunch of fat dudes from the Midwest that just collide. They just collide in the middle. We're like, fuck yeah, America, baby. I would watch that war. I would watch the whole live stream of that war.
Yeah.
The Beehive versus the maggots. What do they call themselves?
The MAGA
Just
people?
patriots,
Yeah.
right? The patriots versus the Beehive.
One time I said on stage that I like Rihanna more than Beyonce, and people almost fought me on stage.
That's a very popular take overseas.
Yeah.
Most people in the world prefer Rihanna over Beyonce.
She seems more like a real person.
That's what everyone says.
Yeah.
She seems like a normal
Beyonce's
human.
manufactured.
Right, she's like a corporate product at this point.
Right. It's like, does
This
Beyonce
is
take a shit
this
ever?
is your last podcast. I don't know why you started that shit. Shit is over now. We was just talking about how dangerous they are, and you're like, you know who I don't like?
We'll cut this part out.
Right,
It's okay.
I love
All right.
Beyonce personally. Beyonce's my favorite, so I don't know what the fuck you talking about, TJ. Beyonce's my #1 artist of any genre or whatever, painter, musician, any kind of creative. She's
Clap if you love Beyonce.
well, not me. I love Beyonce. Please give me some money.
Oh, all right. Let's take it back to the beginning. How did you get started in comedy? Because I never asked you that.
Comedy, I just started doing like open mics. Well, my very, very, very first show, John Laster, who hosts around
Yeah,
the corner.
I love John.
John used to do a show at Two Steps Down, which was a restaurant I like bartended and waited tables at. So he did
Was
a
that
comedy
Bed-Stuy?
night. It was in Fort Greene, so it was on Decal.
Uh-huh.
And then so he used to do a Wednesday night comedies night there, and he had people like fucking Leslie Jones used to like just come headline.
Yeah,
She would,
yeah.
like, drop in there and fucking murder every whenever she was there. She was like, that was when she was still Big Les, and people would like people would be like, is Big Les coming tonight? Like it was that type of
She
shit.
was like a hood celebrity.
She was like the biggest person in there, and she wasn't even like, this is pre SNL, pre everything.
Of
this
course,
is just on her fucking set. You know what I
And
mean?
that was late
People
90s,
treating her-
early 2000s?
This is 03, 04.
Okay.
So early 2000s.
Yeah.
So that was the very first. So he had these shows, and then one day he was like, "You could do." I was talking to him. I was like, "Yo, you should let me do that shit one day." You know how people get
Yeah.
before they do comedy, like, "Yo, you know, I'm a little funny myself." You know what I mean? Maybe one of these days I'll go ahead and let me show you what's good.
Right.
So I would do that, and then one day he was like, "I'm bringing the next comic, Simeon Goodson." I was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I was like, "Chill, no, I don't want to do it
I was
now."
playing around.
Right, I was like, "I'm gonna do it later. Not now. I'm not ready."
Yeah.
But he put me up. My little 3 minutes felt like 30. You know what I mean? I got a couple laughs.
Did you have jokes that you wrote, or you?
I was writing them like,
Yeah.
I didn't have nothing,
How did it feel the first time?
It was fun, but it was like I worked there, so it was like they was clapping because they wasn't going to
Because they know you.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
they
you gotta
wasn't
support
right, they
him
was
and his
like,
little dreams,
right?
you know?
So it was like
That kind of
I got some polite claps and I got some like genuine chuckles, like
But it was
Like,
enough to-
right? It was enough. I was like,
keep
okay,
it going.
because I was like, I'm not even good at this yet. I was like,
Right,
that's
right.
my first shot out. Obviously, I'm a natural. and then I didn't do comedy again for like 2 years. Like, after that. And then I was thinking about it, but I was like, I need to do another show at some point. I need to get that together, but just never did it. And then I just started hitting up open mics. So I think just this is like early internet days. So it was just like a text website. I think it was like the Comedy Soapbox or something like that.
In my days, it was a website called Bad Slav.
Bad Slav is still around, yeah.
Yeah.
So you would just go on there. You would, some of them you pay $5. Some of them
Most of them were $5. I used to have an open mic budget. I used to spend $20 a day. I would go to the 4 p.m., 8 p.m., 6 p.m.
Nice.
Yeah, it was crazy.
We did one where you had to bark in people. Right?
Yeah, I
And
remember
then
those.
the people that you barked in, you would ask them for donations, and then they would pick a random person out the line
Right,
up and
and
give them all the money. So it'd be like, you know, $15, but you was like, fuck yeah, I got paid for comedy, baby. So then from there, you know, just doing open mics to somebody see, like, you know, you would make your little cruise and open mics. And you'd be like, yo, we need to do our own show. We could do a mic better than this. And then you start producing your own shit. Then you start meeting people, doing their shows. And it's just a whole economy about it that just kind of grows if you sit in it long enough.
Okay.
And put in the work.
So now you've been in for like 10, 12, around
04.
Since 04. Oh, right.
Just shy of. Damn, never mind.
It's okay. It's okay.
Right, see?
What's the coolest thing that's happened to you? What's your favorite thing that's happened to you in this business?
In comedy?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we did one. I used to open for Hannibal. So we did a show at the Brooklyn Academy of Music.
Hannibal Buress fans?
Hannibal Buress,
All right.
So he did a show at the Brooklyn Academy of Music, which is like, you know, that's like the type of place that
Which one? There's a couple of rooms. There's a lot. There's like 3 rooms.
I don't fucking know. It was like one of them. I don't know.
Okay.
But the whole idea was that like that was the place we used to go to on like school trips and shit. You know what I mean? Like where they would like take you to like this historic building and show you all the people who performed there and everybody, you know, the whole history of it. And then you got to write a paper about it. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it was like just being on that stage was just like, that was like mind blowing to me to just be on the other end of that, where it's like now I'm kind of part of that history.
As a Brooklyn kid, performing at BAM, that's gotta be.
So like I've done shit like, you know, in Dubai, and I've done shit in, you know, China and all that shit, theaters and around the country. But that was always like that was like the show where I was like, fuck, this is crazy. You know what I mean? Look, I was like, for real, like this is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Like being like walking into that, and I don't like the setup. It's just like a wall of people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like the pit, and then it's just like tiers and tiers of people. So you say one joke, and then it's just raining laughter.
And you gotta wait for it to go
back,
and then come back to
subside, and you just So that was just, I was just like, I was like, I could quit.
Okay. And what's the worst thing that's happened to you in this business?
Besides going to jail in Abu Dhabi? Something worse than that? Because I don't know if I can top that one, baby. That was kind of my finest work. Honestly, though, that was like a mad fun show, obviously, because it just ended terribly. But before the crash, woo, that night was fucking legendary, boy. Such a good night. I don't know, like, well, here was an interesting show I did. I did a show in China called Hollow Weirdos. That was the theme of the show. And I put bad money into the show because I had to get comics from Shanghai. I had to bring in the comics from Shanghai, and then I had to pay the DJs, and then I paid to organize everything and just all this shit. And I was promoting the shit out of it. And the idea to make the money back was that I would sell raffle tickets at the Halloween party for various prizes, you know, bottles of liquor or, you know, funny costumes, t-shirts, just different random things you could win with a raffle ticket. So we have the party. Mad people show up. Like, there's people visiting Wuxi from other cities. Like, because they heard about this party. And then all the other bars in the vicinity, they're like, oh, we're also having a party on Halloween. So, like, now it's just like a whole strip of bars having this fucking crazy-ass block party. Like, and it's fucking lit. Like, everyone is having a great time. And we sold 0 raffle tickets. Like, none. Literally 0. So I was just out like $2,000, like for nothing. So I was just like, and people, there's people as far as the eye can see. You know what I mean? It's just like, yo, can you just buy a ticket? They're like, no, I'm good. Woo! And it's just like, fuck. So that shit, like that, like kind of threw me into like a big funk for like a couple months after that. Like I stopped promoting. I stopped like trying. Doing shows and shit. And then after that, I went back out to the bar just to hang out and drink. And the dude who owned the bar, he was like, yo, where the fuck have you been? You have to throw another party. And I was like, I don't want to throw a party because I lost too much money. He was like, you paid money? We'll pay you to throw parties. And I was like, what? And then after that, so then he just started paying me to throw parties. Like after that, he was like, I don't know why you put any money up. He was like, I will pay you to do this shit every week. I was like, oh, all right. So that's how I started like promoting parties in China, because he was just like, nah, you got it. He's like, you gotta do that shit again. Like,
see, that first party was an investment.
It was right.
Party
So,
promoter.
right, that's exactly what it was. But I wasn't looking at it like that. I was just looking at it as a fucking sunk cost. But I definitely made that money back.
Right.
Easily.
All right. Cool.
But when it was happening, I was like, this is fucking. I was like, I need a real job. I was like, I can't do this entertainment shit no more.
Yeah, it's hard in the middle of it to see when something is.
But on the other side, it came out great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have to let you go soon, man.
That's right.
Last words for these lovely meta people and one geologist?
I mean, the meta people know what we're going to talk about already. They just listen to our phones. We don't have to say it to them. You just say it kind of around your phone. And they'll
fucking spies.
You're like, that's an interesting cookie. You open up your phone, like, I heard you like cookies, nigga. What the hell? How do you know I like cookies?
That's a good place to end it. Ladies and gentlemen, Simeon Goodson.